How would I draft if I could start over? There's so many mistakes that we make in fantasy football every single year. Overjudging the situation, undervaluing this situation. Loving Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Marsmen. They explode. We look like geniuses, then they get hurt. Of course, those things you can't help. You've got to adjust and adapt. Jordan Mason, we smashed the hell out of Jordan Mason. Stay away from Christian McCaffrey, home run. But you can always look back and say, what could I have done better? There's one player, and maybe this is a weekly series, how I would draft if I could start over. Big regret today, Nico Collins, top 5 wide receiver. If I could go back, I would draft Nico Collins
in every single draft.
Nico Collins looks absolutely fantastic. This guy is an absolute marvel. His metrics are through the roof. He passes the eye test every time you see him play football. This is not a knock on Tank Dell. I really don't feel bad about any Tank Dell predictions, and I'm running into the flames and I'm buying Tank Dell at every turn because right now Tank Dell is getting trashed on and he's going to bounce back with a vengeance walking into weeks 3 on. But we're talking about Nico. And Nico deserves to be a top 5 to 7 ranked wide receiver right now. And I think he's got that respect. I think you try and trade for Nico right now outside of the top 7 wide receivers, you'll probably get laughed at because he's wide receiver 2 or 3, depending on your scoring format. But Nico is balling, and he's got an amazing offense. He's got Stroud throwing him the football. There's no red flags at all. It's all green flags lit up across the board, and that's what you want. And that's another lesson that I teach during the offseason, but even I fall victim to sometimes. The lesson of draft players on good teams. I see a lot of you coming to me with questions day in and day out. Smitty, do I go chasing this injured player? Or Smitty, do I go chasing this guy over here playing on a bad team? Draft good players on good teams. It'll solve your problems or answer your questions 8 or 9 times out of 10. And trading for injured players is always a bad idea unless the player's an extra, an accoutrement in the trade, i.e. you're getting Puka Nacua and something for one player, but you really quietly like the one player you're getting with Puka a little bit better than most people expect. So let's say you're trading for an injured Puka Nacua. You're also getting maybe Tank Dell, and you're trading away a player that's playing a little bit better than Tank Dell. Let's say it's not even a player playing well, but DJ Moore. You're trading DJ Moore, let's call it Zay Flowers, a player you don't even love more than Tank Dell quietly. I don't. You might. I don't. Lamar never produces a top 25 wide receiver. Zay will probably never be consistent. And if I can get into a doubted Tank Dell, a player somebody's giving away practically, and I get an injured Puka Nacua, even if I throw something else back that's very, very small, I'm doing that kind of running toward the flames. Give me Puka Nacua. Okay, but for the most part, the lessons here, draft players on good teams with green flags across the board. There's no red flag. There's no real injury red flag here with Nico. There's no situational red flag. There's no quarterback controversy or quarterback dilemma. This is a great team scoring a great amount of points with a guy that has the potential to be a top 5 to 10 wide receiver even before you break all that down. If I could draft over again, this guy would be on almost every single team I have. Partly because he went in the 3rd round by the end of it all. He started to climb into round 2, and I admit I didn't like the round 2 value. In hindsight, I probably would take him at the bottom of round 2 every single time. It is what it is. We adjust and adapt. I'm not going to get everything right. The important part is that on this show, we acknowledge when we're wrong. We change directions immediately. We adjust and adapt, and we don't dig our heels in on things we might believe in now that we didn't believe in at the beginning of the year. And just because my Excel sheet says to go this guy over this guy, I don't play that game. Nico Collins should be traded for right now as a top 5 to 7 wide receiver. And let me just say, one of the main reasons I'm even making this video is because I think there's still an opportunity in some circles, not every circle, to maybe go get him right now before he gets even more expensive. Don't overpay. Don't grab him at first-round value. But if you can trade for Nico right now in some complicated, you muddy the waters up type trade where it's a 2-for-2, then it makes some sense. Maybe you're trading Nico Collins and you're trading an RB because you've got an RB room. You got Jordan Mason, but you know he's got an expiration date. But you go to the Christian McCaffrey owner, let's say, and you say, here's my Jordan Mason, and I'll give you Zay Flowers if we throw him back into the mix. You give me Nico and this player that I do believe in that maybe isn't popping off as much. Let's go to the poker board and see if we can come up with at least one trade that makes a lot of sense for this scenario. Okay, one example of an embarrassment of riches is you got Mason. Okay, you're trying to go after Nico. Maybe this doesn't get done straight up. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it takes a little bit more, but you have the ability and firepower because you were astute. You were smart enough to grab Jordan Mason. So now you just got to comb through your team and say, well, I got DJ Moore, who I like. I'm not saying this is, feels good. You almost want to throw up in your mouth to get rid of a value, a player you overpaid for, which I didn't want any part of because of that Chicago system. But okay, you throw these two at Nico Collins, but you have the depth to do it. This is something I do. I smash this all day long. There are potential ways to get into Nico Collins. You just need to know what to give up, and you need to have the depth to do it. If you don't have the depth to do it, then you can't really do it. But you could try, and you could bring it to the show, and we'll go ahead and take care of you. Okay, so go get this man if you can. If you got him, congratulations. Let's do a standing ovation for you. Because he is absolutely amazing. And if I could do it over again, if I could draft over again, this guy would be in my top 5. This guy would be in my top 5, 6 wide receivers going forward.
Lift off of mission 3, 2, 1, 0.
And if we're trying to be predictive here, and we'll probably make this an every week series. I think it's a good idea. Who could be the player we're talking about next week, like we're talking about Nico this week? And I have to say, the two players that come to mind when looking at rankings and saying we grossly undervalued it. And this even goes for me, and I love this guy. We grossly undervalued what he looks like walking into week number 4 and beyond. And this is a much lower ranked player than Collins, but I think we're walking out of week number 3 going, holy crap. Even me, who's probably his biggest supporter, this could be one of those players we walk out and say, what in the hell were we thinking? On top of this guy. Now think about it logically. Pacheco's out maybe the entire, regular season. He's said to be out 4 to 7 weeks. I don't know. He's got a plate. I believe he's got hardware going in that ankle. I'm telling you right now, the Chiefs are going to revert to a heavy pass attack. And both these guys walking out of week number 3 are going to look like undervalued monsters, much like he feels very different values, but it doesn't matter. It's the same feel. It's the same chasing what we didn't know after the fact, and then you're buying these guys at a much higher price tag coming out of week 3. Go buy them now preemptively so you're not feeling this way about these guys walking into week number 3. Now get out of here. Don't forget I'm live Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, every single Monday through Friday. Additionally, live whenever big news breaks. Deuces.